There have been some fairly significant changes in the modeling when it comes to this big system looking like it to take shape over the next couple of days. What's going on, guys? I'm certified meteorologist Jonathan Kagas. In this video, we are going to talk about this big storm, talk about if there's still some snow potential. That is the part that is changing, but a big-time wind event is likely going to take center stage. That is the part that has gone unchanged of this forecast. We are going to pinpoint that for the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic. I think that's where the bulk of this impactful weather is going to take shape. Before we break all of this down, if you want to stay updated on all things weather, you've come to the right place. Hit that subscribe button for me. If you happen to find this content helpful, hit that thumbs up button. I would also love to know where you're tuning in from. If you could post in the comments, I want to know what the weather's doing in your area. That would be awesome. We love having a conversation on this channel about the weather because it's cool. All right, here we go. Upper level pattern. This is what we need to be breaking down here. Everything still similar here as we look at Friday 1 o'clock. That's been our starting point all this time, and it still looks different. What is also, or still looks the same, I should say. What is different, though, is what's happening here. This big upper low, this other piece of it that's kind of chilling up in Canada here, is having an influence of it, and it looks like it's trying to take the strongest part of the system, of the storm, back towards the upper Midwest and then eventually Northeast and interior Canada. There's still a piece of it here, and this is one of the things that we were talking about yesterday, how we need to kind of figure out how this storm comes together. And right now, it's Saturday at 11 o'clock, there's pieces of it all over the place. So we still haven't really had a phase, the coming together of these weather systems, so to speak. And then, as you kind of saw it there, we had a piece of it up here and then a kind of strung out like a string bean piece right down there. If you recall in yesterday's video, we had a big dip. Both the European and GFS were showing it, the European to a more significant degree of this trough all the way down here. Now what we have going on is this trough becoming negatively tilted way up into the Northeast. So that was always to be expected for the Northeast, this kind of massive amount of wind energy kind of plowing through. But what's kind of, I don't want to say off the table, is that widespread severe thunderstorm risk down here. I think that is lowering to a degree. Now, again, I'm going to caution the same thing as I always say. This is one model run. These pieces are just now working their way onshore to be sampled by those balloon launches. So we're going to get more data, and we're going to see what happens and how that shakes out. The point I'm trying to make is there's still a significant storm likely. I think the snow potential going down in the Midwest, the wind potential staying the same or going up. We're getting more confidence in that wind potential. Stick around towards the end of the video. I'm going to have the future wind gusts. If you want to kind of scrub across and bounce around this video, I'm going to have the time codes for you in the description. So there we go. And again, I'm going to show you a closer look of the Northeast coming up in 1 second, but I do want to show you how this comes together. Notice again, we had an explosion here the other day. So there's still a piece of it here, a piece of it up here, and then the main piece right there. It's just, that's not the great makings for a big snowstorm in the Midwest because we have those pieces there. Now, we have a whole lot of rain. Detroit, we were always missing out. I was talking to a couple of people from Detroit, shout out, into the Motor City, about how we've been missing out on snow the last few years. Yeah, it's been terrible winters lately. That looks like it's going to continue, especially in an El Nino. Now, remember where I said we had that upper low kind of coming into phase? We saw that big cutoff low happen. Dynamically, we might be able to force some cold air right down into here. So it looks like that colder air has tried to shift because that's where the phase is now coming together, at least on this model run. But again, you've got to look at the trend rather than the one model run. Cold front still looks to come through the parts of the South and Mid-Atlantic during the afternoon on Sunday. I will say, though, that the main dip, the main upper low, is still back here. The other day, it was down here, so now most of the wind energy is going to be focusing right here, and we still have some, but we don't have as much, so I'm more optimistic for Florida that the severe weather threat is a little bit lower. Something I'm watching still. I want to show you the future snow, though, and look at the change. Yeah, there's nothing there. This is the Euro now. So this is the crazy part, maybe a little bit of flakage towards central Iowa. There's that first piece kind of dipping down here as we move into the start of the weekend. That first piece that I showed you here, so a little bit of snow coming to the Dakotas, and then that's about it. Not a ton of snow coming our way. Here's another model rendition. That was the GFS that I showed you. And remember, the GFS yesterday had that big stripe from Oklahoma all the way up. So again, that's why you don't get too excited on one model runs if you're looking for snow. But then here's where dynamically, and when I mentioned dynamically, kind of dynamically forced snow, when you have this big upper low, you have a bunch of rising motion like that. When air rises, it cools and condenses. So you're kind of forcing the atmosphere to be cold, even though we don't have a ton of cold air with this system. So dynamically, we might be able to get a little bit of snow as we get into the weekend, and the Laurel Highlands, western Pennsylvania, maybe around some of the lakes as well. But again, in terms of a big snow event, I think it's looking less and less likely. Still, though, this is going to be a significant storm, especially in the Northeast. Look at this. This is going to be the 850 millibar analysis here, about 5,000 feet up. So here is our jet stream, and look at all of this wind energy, especially focusing on this darker yellow here. All this wind just kind of screaming up from the Carolinas through Virginia and then right on into the Northeast. At about the surface, that's about 60 to 70 mile per hour at about 5,000 feet. That translates about 80% down to the surface. And if there's heavier downpours around or thunderstorms around, that will help to mix some of those stronger winds that are about 5,000 feet above the surface down to the surface. So here we go. Starts to get a little breezy on Saturday. And then it starts to get really, really windy as we get into Sunday afternoon. So look at this. Virginia Beach at that time, wind gusts of 30 to 40 miles an hour. It's starting to get a little breezy on the coast. And then look at this. This is late Sunday night into Monday morning, wind gusts in Philly of 40 to 50 miles an hour, and then maybe right here, right along the coast from New York City, Long Island to Nantucket, maybe 50 to 60 mile per hour wind gusts through Monday morning. So where I think this is going to lack a little bit in snow now, the same kind of impacts we've been talking about all the wind energy with this hold true to the Northeast, and especially here we'd be concerned about some kind of coastal flooding along Long Island, because we just have that steady fetch, as we call it, of southerly wind kind of pushing the Atlantic up. So we'll be looking for a coastal flood event all around here as that storm kind of blasts and then pushes way up, all that wind energy forcing the Atlantic Ocean inland a little bit. So that's what we're going to be watching about. But I do think now the main threat is going to be the wind there. We're still watching for that severe weather threat also in Texas, Louisiana, Arkansas through the day on Saturday as this is coming together. Storm Prediction Center does still have that outlook, so we're going to be watching that closely. Still a lot to break down with this system. I do want to point out, too, it appears that this is going to be the kickstart. I think there's going to be a little bit of a delay, but this is kind of the flavor, if you will, of the weather that we are getting into over the next couple of months. It's going to be around Christmas, and then maybe starting that Christmas, early January timeframe. That's when we are really going to start to see, I think, that El Nino pattern really, really ramp up. So that means more storms rolling through the south, and then those big nor'easters potentially getting going. It's all about the cold. Will it be there? That's the question for my friends in the Northeast. Thank you again, guys, so much for tuning in. If you found this content helpful, do me a favor, hit that thumbs up button. And if you want to stay updated, if you want to have this weather conversation that we like to have, hit that subscribe button. Love to have you along for the ride, and we will catch you next time.